Welcome back to another mini episode of my podcast, Still Thinking Man with David Chambers. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about something that keeps coming up with the men that I talk to and work with, is this fear and this belief around relationships being a trap, right? Relationships being a trap, women not being loyal, that, relationships just bring stress, like marriage always ends up in divorce, women just want to marry for money, all these things, all these really common things that often men say about relationships, right? Or, relationships make a man soft, they get in the way of his drive, right? Or that are one of the best ones I love to hear is like, human beings were never meant to be monogamous, right? So I want to talk about some of these things and what's a bit deeper below them, right? But before I jump into that, I'm going to let you know about my program, Breaking the Chains of Avoidance, which is about really for men who are scared of intimacy. If you've said any of those things to yourself, you'll most likely have some fear around intimacy, who struggle with emotional expression and being felt by the women they're with. Maybe you struggle to create deep connections in your relationships. Maybe you've experienced relationships as feeling like a trap, as feeling restrictive, and worry about losing your freedom. These are kind of hallmarks of avoidant attachment. And I have a program just for that, because that's what I've been through to come out of avoidant attachment into a beautiful, loving relationship with also my partner, who you can listen to with me on other episodes. And even we have an episode we recorded where we were with Bjorn as well. You can listen to that one. Our little boy, who's now 9 months old, many years ago, I didn't believe it was possible. And it's through this work that I do now with my clients, and I did with myself, and I continue to do myself, that I bring into the Breaking the Chains of Avoidance. It's really taking you from avoidance into the skills of like embodying the skills of connection and creating beautiful relationships. So if you're interested in that, there's a link down below to a waitlist. You put your name on the waitlist and you're eligible for a 15% discount off the full price, right? If you're not on the waitlist and you choose to join, you do not get that discount. So you just got to join the waitlist. You put your name, email in there, and that's it. I send you an email. If you're interested, you say yes. If you're not, you're done. You don't hear from me again. But relations are a trap. I think it's really interesting that we're seeing more and more this idea that relations are a trap and this fear around relationships, and particularly the focus being often on what relationships are taking from a man. I think some of the statistics are interesting when you add in like men who that get married and in long-term relationships are happier. They live longer. They have better health. There's a Stanford study, I think it is Stanford or Harvard study, that basically says the biggest indicator of a man's health is his relationships in his life, the quality of relationships, in particular, the romantic relationship he has in his life. Because obviously, for men, it's a huge indicator of their happiness, right? Massive indicator of their happiness. And also married men are wealthier, right? This will come against the one about, losing your money. It's not to say that, some people get divorced and they have to split some things and so forth, right? But married men are also wealthier on average. It really is true, right? And I think a lot of the things what doesn't get looked at is we have all these tropes of like, relationships are a trap, women aren't loyal, they just want money, blah, blah, blah. And what that negates is you, who you are being in relationship, right? What are your fears and your projections and your stories about relationship, and how does that impact your experience of relationships? Yeah. And I can talk from my own experience. When I believed that relationships were restrictive and they were a trap and women were trying to like take my time and take my independence, that's what I experienced. And when I started to see that actually, if I want a relationship that has certain levels of freedom in it, as I record this, I'm going to go to Thailand in a few days for a friend's 40th. For a week. I have a child, I have a baby, and I'm in a relationship with Orsa. And she was like, okay, cool. She's like, yeah. I was like, friends 40th, I'm going to go to Thailand. How is that? She was like, that's okay. We need to put a few things in place, but it was okay. Am I trapped? I'm pretty free, right? This is a really important thing. It's all about how you create the relationship, how you communicate what it is you want and how you want that relationship to be. Some of my clients, I'm saying many of my clients, have been polyamorous. They're in polyamorous relationships where they are able to have other relationships or sleep with other people. But the key is for them to have that kind of open side of relating, they have to be able to communicate it. right? And what I see with a lot of men is they believe that relationships are a trap, or no women are loyal, and all these things that really sing to me is this fear of commitment and an inability to create the relationship as you wouldn't like to design it, right? Because deep down, often what happens when a relationship, it like triggers our deepest wounds. So we'd rather not get into the relationship and just use these excuses because they sound reasonable, and we can find evidence for them. But you can find evidence for whatever you want, right? You can find evidence for that, you can't trust any women. Of course you can. There's women out there who cheat in the same way that there's men out there that cheat. And the same way there's women out there who are deeply loyal, right? Overly loyal to their men as well. I'm sure if you decide to think about it, you could find some examples in your own life, right? Or you can think of, you think to yourself, okay, relationships get in the way of business and drive. Actually, if you look at the wealthiest men in the world, nearly all of them are married. And many of them have been married from a very young age, right? It's something you see a lot with men. Very, very successful men get married quite young. They get married quite young. They have a family. They have that stability and security and safety. And also, I think they haven't got this energy of trying to get women. And they're focusing their energy on nurturing their family and creating their wealth and their legacy, right? I think it's a really important aspect. Like, now that I'm in a relationship, like, I've saved so much energy from not chasing women and not like messaging and on online platforms and blah, blah, blah. Like, or fearing about women or fearing about relationships. I'm just focused, right? But a lot of this comes down to is your ability to have good relationships. It's not about the women. It's about your capacity to foster relationships that are functional. And if you don't have the capacity to do that, here's the thing. It's easy to just blame women or blame marriage or blame relationships for the problem instead of taking responsibility and going, this is me. And then even if you go, but it's all the guys I know. It doesn't mean just because it's happening to all the people that you know, personally, it doesn't mean that it's a universal problem. It's still a problem that you're having and they're having, right? It's very easy for us to go, if a common problem is happening, it must be universal, because it's not. My clients, they might come to me with some of these universal problems, but off the back end, the relationships are way better. The ability to love and connect is way better, right? You don't need to be perfect. It's just that you have to start taking responsibility for your own dysfunction and the way that you're creating your relationships and the stories you keep telling yourself and how you then project those stories out onto women, onto relationships. Because there's evidence, like I said, there's evidence for whatever you want to believe out in the world. There really is. There's evidence there. Whatever you want to believe, there's evidence of it, right? So pulling yourself back and creating evidence of and seeing evidence of happy relationships where it works, of divorces that end well. I've got clients who've had beautiful divorces, In many ways, they're in the relationship with their ex-partner is better now after divorce than it was when they were together, right? Of examples of like trust and connection and loyalty and so forth, because those examples are there. And if all you see in social media is like, accounts that tell you how terrible women are and all the hurt that they do, then you might need to start changing who you follow, because that's also part of the problem, right? Through my feed, I see a lot of happy couples who are doing beautiful work together, whether that's business, whether that is just living their lives. But if you're not seeing that, then that's partly a choice, right? Or the algorithm is responding to what you want to see. And there's another deeper layer. It's like, is it that, all those statements about marriage and relationships and women are true? Or is it that you've never really experienced a healthy relationship? You didn't see one growing up. You didn't see one with your parents. You didn't see one with your uncles and aunts. So your mind, your emotional body, your like nervous system, right, doesn't know what healthy love looks like. Maybe it knows what chaos looks like. And the problem with our nervous system and our beings and our bodies, we gravitate to what's familiar. So if what's familiar is chaos, then you're going to create chaos because it's what's familiar to your body, right? What's familiar to your mind. Or maybe deep down, you're really fearful that you're going to be hurt and you're going to be left and you're going to be, all those things, right? All those things that can happen, right? But you're so afraid of it. You're not leaning in to the possibility of what a relationship could bring you. Love, connection, belonging, personal growth, wealth, legacy, having children, all those things that can be really beautiful for you, but you're pushing away because of the fear you have. So it's really important to acknowledge that there's fear there and start to do something to overcome it, right? And as I said, I got my program, Breaking the Chains of Avoidance, which is perfect for if you're really afraid of commitment, if that's one of the hallmarks, you feel you're an avoidant man, it's been said to you before, then it's perfect. But this is the thing, it's your responsibility. The world isn't going to change for your fears and worries. So you have to change to create the world that you want, right? It's your decision, it's your choice. I think I'll leave it there. Look after yourself. If you enjoyed this episode, if you've taken something from it, comment below, say what it is. And if there's something else you want me to talk about in relation to men, relationships, dating, intimacy, masculinity, just drop it down below. Let me know in the comment section on YouTube or in the comments on Spotify. Ciao, ciao.